Welcome to Oldsmobile 455. When I was in my 20s, I really liked regular Jeeps, and they had their limitations. And the first Jeep I had, I bought it from the dealer, and the next day it snowed. I'm at my girlfriend's house, and they said you should stay home, and we're gonna shovel the driveway out, so I'm gonna move my Jeep, and it didn't move. It had one wheel spinning up front and one wheel spinning in the back. There was so much snow underneath it, it didn't move, and they're all laughing at me. So I thought, I gotta get rid of this Jeep. Well, not too many people want to buy Jeeps. And I wanted to fix this one up, and then when I saw one that was already done, I asked him if he wanted to trade. So I brought pictures today. We have them right here. And I bought this Jeep that had 44-inch tall tires, and it had a V8 engine in it, and not too many people wanted to buy that, and I wanted to get rid of the Jeep that I had, so I found this guy on the Wheeler Dealer magazine. I went all the way out to Madison. He looked at my Jeep, and I says, how about half, you know, and then I gave him more money, and I drove this thing all the way back from Madison with these 44-inch tall tires. And everybody driving by thinks it's really cool, but it isn't the greatest ride when you buy a vehicle that has these big, huge mud tires. Basically, the vehicle was only designed to ride in mud out in the field. And then when you drive it on the road with that big a wheel, you do suffer. The ride is not that great. So he was going to come up, let you see what the picture looked like originally when the tires stuck out of the wheel wells. It had headers and it had side exhaust, and the headlights were too high, the bumpers were too high. I drove it for about a year. Every time I would be driving, I saw a cop, I would just be gritting my teeth because I knew the thing was illegal. But cops would look at it, and I'd just drive by, and then all of a sudden you could breathe easily. And your heart rate would go down, because I knew sooner or later they were going to say, get this thing off the street. It's just like if you were driving a Gasser 55 with no front bumper and a straight axle, sooner or later you're going to get stopped. So one day I'm driving down the road and I'm going to work with this thing. And I pass up a cop, and all of a sudden he does a Jim Rockford file 180-degree turn, and he's flying up on me. And as he got right up behind me, I just pulled over into the gravel and slammed on the brakes, and stones chucked all over his car because I knew I was going to get a ticket. And he gets out of his cop car and he's looking up at me, because it sat really high. And he goes, you know why I'm stopping you, don't you? And I says, no, I wasn't speeding. And he says, the geometry's all wrong. I says, well, I wouldn't know. I didn't get past basic math. And he goes, just get down from here. He didn't like looking up at me. So we get down, and he goes, I just got done busting a guy with a Datsun pickup truck, just like this. And I says, well, today must be your lucky day. So he just starts writing off the headlights too high, the bumpers too high, the modified exhaust, the tires sticking out too far. It came to $1,600. There was no way you could change it. So when I went to court, everybody before me is getting the, I knew some of these guys, they'd be driving around all the time. And I saw a Cobra Mustang 2 that I knew had tires sticking out too far. He gets a fine of like $500. And guy, he had modified exhaust and all this stuff. So I'm looking at the same trouble, same situation. And when they started reading off what I was going to be getting, it was $1,600, and I was like, Your Honor, you're never going to see this vehicle on the highway again. I bought another vehicle, and I showed him the, new bill of sale and the title, and I says, why don't we just forget about this, and you'll never see it on the highway again. He goes, well, you knew what the laws were when you were driving that vehicle, and you broke the law, so you're going to have to pay for it. He goes, I can throw out this, this, and this, but you're going to get a modified exhaust and the tires sticking out too far. I says, how much is that? He goes, $250. And I had to say, thank you, Your Honor. and I never drove it on the road anymore. It sat around for a long time, and everybody goes, what are you going to do with that thing? So I ended up dropping the suspension down and covered up the wheel wells. My brother didn't like it at all, but that way I could at least drive it on the street again. And I changed a lot of issues. When you have a vehicle that's lifted up, and a Jeep has really spindly drive shafts in the first place, and then you start putting them at angles like this, I got really good at changing U-joints. So this corrected for a lot of problems that were going on. And now we can show you some pictures of what the car used to look like. And it used to take it to the mud drags, and then what it was like after I ended up getting it done. This is on our way to the mud drags at Union Grove, Great Lakes Dragway in Wisconsin. The tires are way bigger than what the wheel well is. They stuck way out, and that's it at the, in the mud pit running down there. It was called Tonka Toy. There's probably been a million of them. And at the gas station, you can see how here's a regular Bronco with 33-inch tall tires, and the roof line was, up at the roof line of the gas station. And then when you see it going up against what the other trucks were in the modified class, this thing looks like a little toy compared to what all these other guys were doing. This is way back in, I'm thinking 1980 or something like that. And the first monster trucks were pretty ridiculous. They just had these big tractor tires that guys would cut a plate of steel and drill a bolt pattern that fit the military axle. And then they'd usually take their own truck frame and stack it on top of another one, that had the military suspension. The stuff didn't even move because it was made for, big military deuce and a quarter trucks. And they were really heavy. When you'd go into a mud bog, these guys had the power, but the poor truck was just sinking in the mud, and they'd be having mud all over their tires, and they were like big block, 454 with supercharger and fuel injection, and just they went through it. It sounded cool to hear an engine like that maxed out. And then because I was so much lighter with just a normally aspirated 350 Chevy, but I had nitrous, the best I ever got was second place. So I can say is, it was okay, but not as good as what the other guys were running. But right after this race, this guy shows up with this little Suzuki Samurai, and everybody's laughing like, what the heck is this thing gonna do? And he's revving it like ring, 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 ring. And when the light turned green, he skittered across the top of the mud, and his tires didn't even get muddy on the side. And a light bulb went off in everybody's head thinking, we got to reduce weight and keep the car from sinking in the mud, skitter across the top. And the year after that, everything changed. You'd see guys with their same engines that they had in the car-crushing monster trucks. They'd put them in like a Monte Carlo or a 73 Chevelle, or the big cars. And then they eliminated the transfer cases. They had just a drive shaft connecting the two axles. They had V-belts or chains that they adjusted, with a plate and a bolt, and they had everything lightened down. And now, it only took a couple seconds to skitter across these mud bogs. They eliminated the paddle wheels and all that stuff because the guys were going way too fast. Now you watch them and they're really sophisticated, and they're like 1.5 seconds. So after the car was taken off the road, I had to address these issues of the tires not being covered and it was sitting too high. And I just basically used the cowl and the lip where the top would go on. The rest was just a homemade body. I used the hood, and then I just ran I think it was like 1.5 by 2 square tubing across, made a floor pan, and then tied up with the firewall. I had to cut the frame and move the front axle 8 inches forward so the wheel would be in the wheel well opening, and then just made a bunch of pieces and welded them together to cover up the tires. I had a cop stop me one time, and I was like, oh no, not again. And he ends up just saying, oh, I just wanted to look at the vehicle. He says, I think it's really cool. I says, you want to buy it? And he goes, no, I don't have the money to buy it. But I didn't get hassled anymore once the tires were covered up, and I put the old ram horn exhaust manifolds back on, and I had a full exhaust. So there were no issues. The headlights were back down to being, you know, kind of respectable. A lot of times when you pull up too close on people, you lit up their whole interior cabin, you know, at nighttime, because the headlights still were higher than everybody else. But I got away with doing that.